Welcome to This Explainer. Look, let's just start by acknowledging something that anyone who has ever survived a volunteer board already knows in their bones. Board burnout is a highly specific, totally unique kind of exhaustion. It is really not the same as being tired after a long day at your regular job. It's that heavy, sinking feeling when the work that honestly used to feel meaningful has slowly morphed into an endless series of awkward public comments and incredibly stale coffee. It's when those monthly meetings are now something you literally have to negotiate with yourself just to show up for. You're giving time, energy, and mental bandwidth that you honestly do not have to something that just doesn't seem to be moving forward anymore. You are exhausted. And yet somehow, you're still sitting there.
There's this trap we all fall into. You're still in your seat because you actually care deeply about the mission. You stay because you don't want to let your fellow board members down. And fundamentally, you stay because leaving feels like quitting, and quitting feels like failure. That internal tension is very real and it is incredibly heavy. But it's worth sitting with for a minute today, because how you navigate this exact tension is going to determine whether you can actually find your way back to the work or whether you're just painfully delaying an inevitable exit purely out of guilt.
Section 1. The Quiet Arrival.
The truth is, board burnout almost never explodes into the room with some dramatic resignation letter. It creeps in quietly through the back door. You start doing the bare minimum, you see a notification pop up from the board group chat, and you feel this immediate visceral dread. You just completely stop engaging in those lengthy, circular discussions about bylaws. You arrive frustrated, you leave feeling worse. And perhaps the most telling sign of all, the person who used to drive things forward, and hey, maybe that's you, suddenly just goes completely quiet. Recognizing this checklist isn't a sign of weakness, guys. It's just the sign that the equation of what you're giving versus what the board is actually achieving has been wildly out of balance for entirely too long.
Section 2. Diagnosing the drain. Once you acknowledge you're exhausted, you have to find the root cause, right? Burnout rarely has just a single cause, so you kind of have to triage it. Take a look at this matrix. Which of these is driving your drain? Is it volume? Like, are you on 3 different committees simply because the silence in the room was too awkward and nobody else would raise their hand? That, my friends, is a boundary problem. Is it friction? Is a toxic dynamic taking more energy than the actual governance? That's a relationship problem. Is it misalignment, where the board is drifting away from why you joined in the first place? That's a values problem. Or is it the absolute most agonizing one of all, futility?
Let's define futility for a second, because if you've been on a board long enough, you definitely know this one intimately. It's pushing for something for months or literally years, and absolutely nothing moves. It's circling the exact same procedural issues, having the exact same debates, without ever reaching a resolution. It is the classic 3-hour meeting that definitely could have been a 5-minute email. Pinpointing which of these drivers you're dealing with is absolutely crucial, because it tells you whether the situation is actually fixable, or if you're already standing way closer to the exit door than you realized.
Section 3. The Maintenance Phase.
If you decide things might be fixable, let's talk about short-term treatment. We need to discuss a drastically underused option in the world of volunteer boards, the radical act of simply doing less. You have the permission to step back into a maintenance phase. Step 1, step back from a committee. Just one. Step 2, look at a task you would normally jump on with a heavy sigh and just pass on it. Let someone else do it. Step 3, attend the monthly meeting, listen, vote, but consciously choose not to put yourself in the absolute center of every single debate. A board member who pulls back temporarily and then returns restored is vastly more valuable to an organization than someone who martyrizes themselves, pushes through the pain, and then hard quits in a total blaze of exhaustion.
Now you might be wondering how you actually do this without causing a panic. It's simple. You just say, I need to reduce my commitments for the next couple of months and will let you know when I am ready for more. That's the whole script. No manifesto, no itemized list of grievances, and you might be really surprised to find that most boards, even the highly dysfunctional ones, will respect this boundary much more than you'd expect.
While you're in this maintenance phase, see if you can dig out your why. Somewhere underneath all the bureaucratic baggage, the petty disagreements, and the agonizing adherence to Robert's Rules of Order is the reason you originally said yes. That reason didn't just vanish into thin air. It's just buried. A temporary step back might be exactly what you need to unearth it.
Section 4. The Hard Conversations.
So what happens if stepping back isn't quite enough? You have to resolve the friction. Now, we often avoid this because we think a hard conversation has to be a confrontation. Let's clarify the difference here. A confrontation is hostile. It escalates, and it usually happens publicly, making everyone else in the room stare awkwardly at their shoes. You don't need that. What you need is a direct exchange. That means calmly naming what is draining you, in private, and asking if the dynamic can change. Either they say yes, or they confirm that things will absolutely not change. But either way, you finally get the data you need.
Section 5. The graceful exit. If things won't change, we arrive at the harsh reality of knowing when to go. If you've tried pulling back, if you've tried resting, and the symptoms are still exactly the same, well, you have your answer. If the meetings are still a complete drain, if the work still feels entirely futile, and if looking at the calendar and imagining another full year on this board makes you feel genuinely demoralized, that is data. It is important information, and you have to act on it factually rather than emotionally.
Which brings us to the absolute heaviest question in this entire explainer. You have to really, truly be honest with yourself right now. Is staying actually serving the board, or is it just serving your own reluctance to leave? Is it serving your ego? Are you just terrified of being seen as a quitter? Here is an incredibly blunt observation that took me a very long time to learn. A checked-out board member is never a neutral presence. You might think you aren't doing any harm by just sitting there quietly, but you are physically taking up a seat that someone with fresh energy, new ideas, and actual investment could fill. Staying when you have absolutely nothing left in the tank is not loyalty. It is a disservice to the very mission you care so much about.
So, if it is in fact time to go, the question isn't whether to leave, but how to do it responsibly. Step 1. Be intentional about the timing. Seriously, don't leave mid-crisis if you can help it. Step 2. Set up whoever comes next for success. Organize your files, finish your pending commitments, just don't leave a bunch of messy loose ends. Step 3. Decide if you want to remain a stakeholder in a different capacity or if you just need a clean break. And Step 4. Leave the door open on your own terms. This is highly practical advice here. Don't let yourself burn out so completely that you resent the organization and swear off volunteering forever.
I want to leave you with this final, kind of profound realization. Knowing when your season of service is over and doing it with grace is its own form of contribution. Stepping aside so the work can continue with new energy is a leadership decision, not a failure. So look at your current seat at the table. Are you preserving the mission, or are you just preserving your pride?